The Ilthri did not fear death. They had transcended such primal nonsense long ago, at least according to themselves. So, when the Ilthri Ascendant snagged a primitive carbon-based creature in its deep space field net, the crew responded not with panic, but with academic intrigue. The specimen, a bipedal organic, scarred, heat-radiating, and bizarrely vocal, was classified under the Universal Taxonomy as a Type 6 biological anomaly. It had been recovered from the wreckage of a crude, combustion-driven exploration craft, drifting near an unclaimed mineral-rich dwarf planet. Containment stable, intone the ship's environmental AI. Specimen active. Cognitive readings high. Emotional outputs fluctuating. Dr. Valric, lead xenobiologist of the expedition, stared through the observation pane at the creature. It sat upright, even under triple-gravity restraint fields, and was now waving one middle finger at the ceiling while singing some incomprehensible song about Highway to Hell. "Is it attempting communication?" asked Junior Analyst Zern, the smallest of the research staff. He flinched as the creature locked eyes with him through the glass. "It is engaging in audio loop behavior," Valric replied. "Possibly territorial. Possibly a mating display." She made a note to sedate it before testing. But before the tranquilizing neurovapors could be released, the creature stood. "All right, space lizards," it growled, staring directly into the security lens. "You poked the wrong bear." With that, it hurled itself forward, smashing its head into the wall-mounted sensor array, disrupting the containment field with alarming precision. "What the hell?" Zern cried. "It's self-harming." "No," Valric whispered. "It's calculating." The creature, Commander Alejandro Rios, United Nations Stellar Survey Corps, didn't know who had abducted him, but he knew one thing for sure. These aliens had never dealt with a pissed-off human before. He stumbled into a corridor. The air was too sterile, smelled like hospital bleach and ozone. His shoulder throbbed, a remnant of the crash, and the gravity was too strong. But it wasn't worse than SEAL training in 5G centrifuges. He could work with this. What he couldn't work with was the total lack of caffeine. He muttered to himself as he limped forward, using a shiny panel he'd ripped from the wall as a makeshift shield. A long, silver-eyed creature rounded the corner ahead of him, armed with what looked like a neural disruptor rifle. Rios grinned and slid under its line of sight, slamming the shield into the creature's thin knees. The alien dropped like a sack of bones. Rios snatched the weapon and kept moving. Valric reviewed the security footage in disbelief. The creature had disabled 3 guards, rerouted internal sensors, and was now exploring the ship's hydroponics wing. It was consuming raw energy pods, laughing the whole time. "It is metabolizing unrefined xanthium?" Zern asked, horrified. "That should be lethal," Valric replied, double-checking the biotoxin database. "No species we know of can process that compound. It destroys cellular walls." The human was now reclining on a bench in the agricultural dome, eating what looked like glowing moss and humming something upbeat. Valric leaned forward, eyes wide. "It's adapting. In real time." "Should we gas it again?" Zern asked nervously. Valric hesitated. "No. I want to talk to it." When Rios awoke in the lab chamber again, he was strapped down but not aggressively. The restraints were almost apologetic. The lights were softer now. There was a cup of warm something on the table beside him. Across from him stood one of the aliens, tall, gray-violet skin, 6 fingers, and a face like a stone carving that had started to melt. "Human," it said in a chime-like tone. "I am Dr. Valric, xenobiologist. I do not intend harm." Rios blinked. "Do you have coffee?" Valric tilted her head. "This coffee. Is it a weapon?" "No," Rios said, then grinned. "Well, kind of. Depends on the dose." Valric hesitated. "You are aware that your biology makes no sense." "Thanks. You sustained 6 internal injuries, 3 fractures, and exposure to sterilizing radiation. You should be dead." Rios looked down at his side. He was bruised but felt decent. "Yeah, well, humans are built weird. We noticed. Your immune system activated before our nanobots could sedate you." Your endocrine glands override most chemical inhibitors. You metabolize poisons. You laughed while bleeding. Rios shrugged. It was a good joke. Valric's voice rose. That was not a joke. You told your captors, and I quote, "You call this a prison? I've had worse hangovers. What is wrong with human biology?" Rios grinned again. You tell me, document. You're the one doing the tests. Valric paused. The human was not afraid. Curious, sarcastic, exhausted maybe, but not afraid. That did not compute. Later, Valric pored over the data with trembling hands. The human brain lit up in scans like a sunspot storm. Its neural pathways were redundant, overlapping, chaotic. Emotion and logic were not separated. They coexisted, amplified each other. And in stress conditions, the brain increased its efficiency by sacrificing stability. That's why he's unpredictable, she muttered. His mind becomes more efficient when stressed. Zern floated nearby, reading the same scans. So, he gets smarter when in danger? Yes, Valric whispered. Smarter and more dangerous. Commander Threx, head of ship security, was less amused. We should destroy it. Immediately. Valric stood in the chamber, arms behind her back. You saw the footage. He saved 3 of your officers. He didn't kill anyone, even when he could. He is a threat to the mental stability of the crew. He is a human. A first contact opportunity. Threx slammed one clawed hand on the table. You've grown attached. I've grown curious, she replied coldly. And if we wish to survive future encounters with his species, we need to understand what makes them tick. Threx hissed, then stormed out. Valric turned to the screen again. Rios was tinkering with a food dispenser, apparently trying to recreate peanut butter using protein paste and lubricant oil. He gagged, then laughed. Rios sat in his temporary cell, legs crossed, watching his captors with growing amusement. They weren't monsters. Just weird scientists who had clearly never met anything like a human before. He'd overheard a bit, something about chaos neurons, adaptive epigenetic shifts, and feral problem-solving instincts. He wasn't sure what half of it meant, but it was clear they didn't know how to handle someone who refused to die quietly. He looked into the observation lens and raised a hand in salute. Hey, Valric. If you're watching, I could really use that coffee. A moment later, the dispenser in his room activated with a hum. Steam. Black liquid. Strong. Rios smiled. Maybe this wouldn't be so bad after all. There were 5 things that terrified the Ilthari. War was not one of them, nor disease nor failure. They had cured, conquered, and calculated their way past such primitive threats. No, what terrified them, truly, were anomalies. And right now, Anomaly 4, X7H, self-identified as Commander Alex Rios, was eating a protein bar made from concentrated neurotoxin-laced algae and discussing 20th century sitcoms. I'm just saying, Rios said, waving a nutrient pouch for emphasis. If they had added a laugh track to your bridge crew, people might actually relax around here. Dr. Valric blinked. A laugh track? You know, fake laughter. Helps you feel less alone. Valric stared, utterly baffled. You artificially simulate emotional reinforcement to encourage group cohesion? Exactly. Rios grinned. Also, it's funny when people fall downstairs. Valric's logs were growing stranger by the hour. Research log, subject 4, X7H, human. Human physiology continues to defy logic. Cortisol levels spike during stress, but are paired with dopamine surges, suggesting humans enjoy danger. Specimen requested access to caffeine again, stating, "It helps me think sideways." Sideways, thinking appears to mean irrational decision-making that occasionally results in successful problem-solving. Further analysis required. Possibly divine punishment. The other researchers had begun avoiding the observation chamber. Some complained of nausea, others of intrusive thoughts. At least one junior technician claimed the human's constant smiling gave him existential skin itches. Valric, however, was fascinated. He had learned their language quickly. He had hacked a basic translation lexicon in under 3 hours using a jury-rigged panel, a wire coil, and a tooth. He had made fire in a sterile lab. And now he was constructing something from spare food trays, a discarded reclaimer filter, and 2 ceiling vent fans. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Building a coffee machine," he said. "Yours suck." Elsewhere on the Il-3 Ascendant, containment alarms screamed. A Level 3 quarantine organism, one of the ship's less fortunate acquisitions, had slipped its restraints. It was a spined, amorphous predator with a taste for organics. The guards were already down. It was crawling through vent shafts, headed toward the power core. "Security to Level 9, barked Commander Threx. "Evacuate sectors 8 through 12. Valric glanced at the live footage. The creature, classified as a Class Red metamorph feeder, moved fast. Too fast. It had adapted to stun weapons. Disruptors wouldn't work. And yet, she hesitated. Then turned. "Human," she said to Rios through the translator node. "I require your expertise." Rios grinned. "You need a caveman to kill your monster." She didn't blink. "Yes." He stood, cracking his knuckles. "All right. First, I need rope, something sharp, and a bucket of that glowing fungus you grow in hydroponics." Valric blinked. "Why?" "I have a plan." "Is it a good plan?" "No," he said. "But it's human, so it'll probably work anyway." 20 minutes later, Rios was crouched above a corridor junction, whispering to himself while spreading glowing spores across the floor. Behind him, Valric watched via drone feed as he assembled his trap. He'd sharpened a ventilation plate into a makeshift blade, suspended above a corridor rigged with torn conduit wires and coated in a slippery, lubricated gel harvested from the maintenance robots. The metamorph feeder approached, sniffing the trail of glowing spores. Rios waited. Still. Quiet. Then, as the creature lunged, he screamed, leapt from the ceiling, and jammed the blade through its skull in one smooth motion. It shrieked, convulsed, and fell. "Monster problem solved," he said, panting. "Now about that coffee." Valric watched the medbay scan with disbelief. Rios had sustained a slash across his ribs deep enough to expose bone. He'd refused anesthetic. Again. And he was healing. Again. How is this possible? She asked herself. No regenerative serum. No nano-repair. Just cell division. Fast, chaotic, effective. He used the ship's thermal vent to cauterize the wound, Zern added, shaking his head. Who does that to themselves? Valric looked over the data. Heart rate, brain waves, emotional flux, all active, all elevated. He was operating on pain, stress, and a steady drip of self-sarcasm. She stared into the medbay where he now lay, shirtless, bruised, humming a tune about Eye of the Tiger. What the hell was wrong with human biology? Rios opened one eye. You keep looking at me like I'm a science experiment. Valric didn't flinch. You are. He smirked. Flattering. She approached cautiously, holding a tablet. Your immune system responded to a Class 9 neurovirus in under 10 minutes. Your cells rejected my containment field. You digest radiation like it's protein. You healed while bleeding. And you created a combustion-based explosive using sugar packets and cleaning fluid. Rios shrugged. Improvisation. Valric stared. Do all humans do this? He smiled. Only the trained ones. She blinked. How do you function? Psychologically? Rios looked her in the eyes. We evolved on a death world. Toxic air. Predators. Wars. Natural disasters. And we kept standing up. Pain makes us alert. Stress makes us faster. Trauma? That just makes us meaner. Valric processed this. You are an evolutionary paradox. You heal by breaking. You grow by stress. You thrive on disaster. Rios leaned back. Humanity, baby. We break all the rules. Later that evening, by Earth time, Valric sat alone in her lab. Her report was due. She titled it simply, Subject Analysis, Human, Species Homo sapiens sapiens. File 1. What the hell is wrong with human biology? She hesitated, then added. They should not exist. They should not thrive. They should not win against physics. And yet, they do. over and over again. She paused again, then tapped the comm. Send this to the Ilthari High Council. Mark as level 1 priority. Hours later, in the dark, Rios lay awake on the medbay cot, staring up at the smooth alien ceiling. Despite everything, he didn't feel like a prisoner. He felt like a question mark in a world of periods. They didn't know what to do with him. That was the fun part. He reached for the mug on his tray. Real coffee now, thanks to Valric's upgraded replicator.
Hot.
Bitter. Familiar. He sipped, then smiled. Let's see how deep this rabbit hole goes, he murmured. By now, every department aboard the Ilthari Ascendant had logged at least one formal complaint about the human. He stares at the engine core and talks to it, the propulsion engineers reported. He reprogrammed the food dispensers to produce spicy noodles, complained hydroponics. He taught the navigation AI to play chess. It's now asking philosophical questions, added the command AI liaison. But worst of all, the crew liked him. They didn't understand him, but his stubborn charm was infectious. The guards brought him unauthorized data slates. The engineers traded jokes with him. Even Valric, once the epitome of analytical detachment, now found herself asking his opinion on complex biogenetic puzzles. Worse still, he answered with terrifying insight. Rios had seen the shift too. Not just in the crew, but in Valric. She no longer stared at him like a volatile experiment. Now she asked him questions, real questions. Not probes or tests, but things like, why do humans fear death so much? What is a dog, and why does every human seem to love them? What is a meme? And why do you keep calling our sacred neural library a data cringe farm? He liked her. In a cautious, professional, maybe I can't trust you way. She was smart, curious, and didn't flinch anymore when he made dark jokes. But deep down, Rios knew the goodwill wouldn't last. Someone, somewhere in the Ilthari hierarchy, would decide he was too dangerous, too unpredictable, and they'd act. It came faster than expected. A diplomatic ship arrived, sleek, blood-red, and ominously silent. The Ilthari Accordant, a high-caste vessel bearing envoy surgeon Rel Thov, genetic caste purist and biological supremacist. Valric stood stiffly as the envoy's arrival ramp hissed open. The air pressure dropped a full percentage point. So did the temperature. Thov emerged, tall and smooth-skinned, with eyes like obsidian knives. Where's the abomination? He asked flatly. Valric did not flinch. He has a name. Thov's lip curled. So, do diseases. Rios was marched into the central diplomacy chamber by 2 guards, out of protocol, not necessity. He nodded toward Valric, then gave Thov a long, unapologetic once-over. You must be the fun one. Thov didn't blink. Your physiology defies natural law. Thanks. Your body heals via chaotic cell division. You consume carcinogens recreationally. Your kind adapted by breaking your own DNA. Rios shrugged. Survival of the most stubborn. You are a glitch. A cosmic accident. A war crime committed by evolution. Then why are you so scared of me? That silenced the room. Valric bit her lip to suppress a smile. Thov's face darkened. You misunderstand. I am not afraid of you. I am afraid of what your existence implies. If a species like yours thrives, then our models, our laws, our very civilization is wrong. Rios leaned forward. Then you better get used to being wrong. Thov demanded full access to Rios's genetic data. When Valric refused, citing research ethics, he invoked high caste protocol. The human would be taken to the central bioanalysis facility and dissected.
Alive.
Valric protested. Rios laughed. No offense, Doc, he said, but I'm not exactly into organ donation while conscious. She paced outside her lab later, furious. This is absurd, she told Zern. He's not a threat. Zern pointed at the burn-marked corridor floor. He blew up a janitor closet. He was trying to make toast. Zern frowned. Explosively. Valric didn't answer. Her mind raced. There had to be a way out. A loophole. A precedent. And then she found one. That night, she entered Rios's cell with a datapad and a grin. I've reviewed Ilthuri diplomatic precedent. There's one clause that might help you. Go on, he said, sipping what passed for alien whiskey. Challenge law. Sounds fun already. You invoke an intellectual duel with a commanding authority. If you win, your continued study and protection are guaranteed. If you lose, I get dissected. Yes. He considered it. How does an intellectual duel work? Valric hesitated. It's a combination of theoretical puzzle solving, tactical simulation, and linguistic analysis performed in a live neurofield. The challenge is not just to answer, but to break your opponent's assumptions. He grinned. So, creative bullshit? She blinked. Essentially, yes. I'm in. The duel was held in the Neurotheater, a grand, amphitheater-shaped chamber used for elite policy debates. A neural interface connected Rios and Thov to the same artificial problem space. Rules were simple. Solve the puzzle, counter the opponent's logic, and assert your model. They jacked in. The first simulation appeared, an interstellar colony facing an extinction-level virus. Thov offered a sterilization protocol. Cold, efficient, logical. Rios suggested repurposing a children's toy as a gene vector carrier. It shouldn't have worked, but in the sim, it saved 83% of the colony. The Ilthuri judges frowned. Second round, tactical extraction of a hostage from a physics-defying gravity well. Thov employed gravitational calculus and antimatter rods. Rios suggested using kitchen grease and a rope pulley made from underwear. It worked. And worst of all, it was funny. The judges laughed. Final round. Cultural assimilation of a rogue AI into a sapient alliance without triggering war. Thov proposed memory wipe and ethical reprogramming. Rios walked into the AI's chamber, offered it a riddle, and tricked it into rewriting its own code to understand humor. Simulation ended. Victory, human. Thov stormed from the theater, humiliated. Valric met Rios as he emerged from the interface chamber, sweat-soaked and shaking. That was reckless, she whispered. That was chaotic. Exactly, Rios said. You told me to break assumptions. She smiled, rare and real. You broke 100, maybe more. Don't worry, he said, standing tall despite the neural strain. That's just chapter 1. Later, in her private quarters, Valric updated her research log. Human cultural traits. Humor as weapon. Improvisation under pressure. Deliberate chaos as strategy. Emotional manipulation as diplomacy. She paused, then added. We were wrong. Humanity is not a mistake of biology. They are what biology does when it's trying to cheat death. They do not adapt to logic. They bend it to fit them. She closed the file. Elsewhere, aboard the Ilthuri Accordant, Thov began transmitting a warning to the home world. Do not provoke the humans. They are not strong because they are superior. They are strong because they are impossible. And impossibility cannot be predicted. 3 weeks after the duel, the Ilthuri High Council passed Emergency Directive K-7. No human shall be studied outside a secured, sanctioned bioanalytical observatory. No human shall be permitted access to strategic AI cores, tactical simulators, or ship engineering. No human shall be permitted near diplomatic deliberations. No human shall be underestimated. Alex Rios had been officially classified as a Class Theta variable biological anomaly. Unofficially, he'd become a legend. But legends didn't get to rest. Valric burst into Rios's chamber, now less a cell and more a cluttered workspace with dangerously wired contraptions, and slammed a data tablet onto his table. We have a problem. Rios looked up from his half-built kinetic espresso cannon. Just one. She didn't smile. Ilthuri scouts encountered a Zarn reclamation hive. They're harvesting worlds, again. Border colonies are going dark. Rios whistled. Thought the Zarn were dormant. They were. Until now. And let me guess, he leaned back. The council wants to throw math at the problem. Valric's eyes hardened. They want to negotiate with a swarm of weaponized instinct. They're sending a convoy, one of ours included, to make contact. He stared. You're kidding. I wish I were. His voice dropped. The Zarn don't negotiate. They metabolize diplomats. The Il-3 had technology, shields, predictive AI, precision. The Zarn had only one strategy: consume, adapt, repeat. They didn't evolve over generations, they evolved during lunch. Every failure was recycled. Every defeat made them stronger. They were evolution on fast forward. And humanity had met them before. Tell the council not to send envoys, Rios said grimly. They'll get slaughtered. They won't listen. Then we need to make them watch. Valric authorized access to restricted data channels. Together, she and Rios built a tactical simulation, a hyper-realistic, multivariable model of Zarn combat evolution, seeded with known human engagements from Earth's disastrous first hive contact war. The model showed what the Zarn would do. Worse, it showed what wouldn't work. Il-3 diplomats were annihilated. Standard formations were shredded. AI-led fleets adapted too slowly. Contingency plans were counter-evolved within hours. You see, Valric whispered, there's no clean solution. Rios said nothing. He was focused on the end scenario, humanity's last stand, decades earlier, where Earth's orbital fleets had held out just long enough for a self-destruct protocol to deny the Zarn a victory. Except, Rios muttered, for that. Valric frowned. You're not suggesting. I'm not suggesting suicide. He pointed to the Earth fleet's last-ditch strategy, a signal-spoofing campaign using human-generated randomness. I'm suggesting disruption. Unpredictable, illogical, human chaotic warfare. Which you pioneered. He nodded. And now we do it again. The council reluctantly approved a compromise, one observer to accompany the envoy fleet. Rios would not lead, merely advise. Which means, he said, strapping a modular power rig to his chest, I'll be the one saving their asses when this goes sideways. Valric was already packing her field kit. I'm going too. You sure? She met his eyes. Someone has to make sure your disruption doesn't accidentally breach a star core. The envoy ship was sleek, dignified, and catastrophically unprepared. When they entered the designated Zarn contact zone, the hive was already waiting. The Zarn didn't speak. They didn't posture. They swarmed. Valric watched the command feed as defensive screens flickered and died. 1,000 microorganic interceptors screamed through vacuum. Shields failing. Conduits destabilizing. Adaptive plating compromised. New Zarn variant detected. The captain turned to Rios. You said you had a plan. Rios grinned. It's time to do the one thing they can't predict. Which is, go insane. Phase 1. Irrational targeting. Rios ordered all automated weapons disabled. The Il-3 gasped. You want us to fight manually? Yes, he said, eyes wild. The Zarn adapt to AI fire patterns in seconds. They don't know how to deal with someone who throws a wrench at them mid-battle. He reprogrammed the defense grid using an old Earth gaming console interface, erratic, imprecise, and terrifyingly human. Plasma bolts fired in stuttered bursts, then surged unpredictably. The Zarn faltered. Phase 2. Sensory overload. Valric launched signal packets embedded with Earth memes, images, sounds, emotional triggers. Humor, absurdity, raw emotion. Zarn sensory nodes absorbed the input and recoiled. They don't understand irony, she said, marveling. They can't process irrational emotional spikes. Rios nodded. We weaponized the internet. Just like old times. Phase 3. Controlled infection. Rios deployed his secret weapon, a nanobacterial hybrid grown from human gut flora, coded to emulate toxic proteins. The Zarn eat everything, he explained. Let's see how they handle a human hangover. The tide turned. For the first time in recorded Il-3 history, a Zarn force retreated. The envoy ship limped away, battered, scorched, but alive. In the aftermath, Rios sat alone in the medbay again. Bruised. Burned. Grinning. Valric entered quietly. You did it. He didn't look at her. We did it. She offered him a mug of coffee. From your rebuilt caffeine engine. He took it gratefully. Doc. I know I joke a lot. But this means something. We don't win because we're the strongest. We win because when something breaks us, we don't stop there. We figure out how to use the broken part. Valric sat beside him. You know what I used to believe? That the Ilthri were the pinnacle of biological design. Precision. Harmony. She looked at him now, bandaged, half smiling. Then I met you. And I realized the universe isn't about harmony. It's about chaos. And what thrives in it. Rios raised his mug in a toast. To thriving in the chaos. Weeks later, back on Ilthri Prime, the council held an emergency summit. The Zarn had not returned. Instead, other species, once aloof or hostile, were suddenly contacting humanity. Seeking help. Seeking the impossible. A new alliance was forming. And at its heart was a broken, patched-up, chaos-wielding primate from Earth. Valric's final report, broadcast across galactic academia, was simple. Title: What the hell is wrong with human biology? Addendum: Nothing. That's the point. They do not fear failure. They do not seek perfection. They weaponize every mistake. They joke in the face of extinction. They thrive not despite their chaos, but because of it. And when everything else falls apart, they keep moving forward. Alex Rios walked through the Ilthri Ascendant's upper deck, now free, now honored. A hero. A relic. A warning. He passed by a young Ilthri cadet who stiffened and saluted. Sir, requesting guidance on nonlinear threat adaptation. Rios gave a crooked grin. First rule of human tactics: if you can't outthink them, confuse the hell out of them. And with that, he kept walking into whatever crazy mission came next. Because humanity wasn't built to break. They were built to break everything that tried to break them.